Hello friends, welcome back to the next session on operations planning, scheduling and control. Now let's begin with our learning. In this particular session, we'll be understanding and dealing with the concept of generating variance reports for the management information. The learning objectives. At the end of this particular session, the learners will be able to understand how do we define or what do we mean by generating the variance reports for the management information, how do we create or how do we generate the various variance reports for the management information, and what are the various roles that have been played by the reports that have been prepared by the management information system. Now let's understand the basic concept of generating the variance reports for the management information. So as we have seen in the last module, which specifically speaks about creation of various reports in a business organization. Now those particular reports that have been prepared in the business organization are always of a variance nature. That is, it differs from product to product, commodity to commodity, department to department. And when all those activities are being undertaken in a business organization, some activities are of a regular nature and some activities or some reports are of a critical nature. When all those activities are being undertaken together as a part of a report, there may be a cross-disciplinary decision that needs to be undertaken. And for compilation of all those particular activities, a management information system is essentially required. So a management information system is a part of a software which deals with a certain consideration about how all those reports can be complied in a better concern, and a report that can be generated with respect to the variance analysis, and accordingly it can provide a greater or larger information to the business management. Now, whatever reports that we are preparing, they are always of a crucial nature, which deals with identifying of reports and how those particular indicators as to strategic management can be implemented in the business organization. When a particular report is needed to be prepared, always one has to see and identify that those particular reports should be available as per the benchmarks that have been set, and it should always be in accordance and compliances with respect to the strategic goals and objectives that have been set in the business organization. And hence, for those particular consideration, the business activities needs to be set in a very effective way, and a proper communication between the members of the management, between the members of the middle level management and the report or the activities where they are being implemented as to the consideration of the shop floor management, the participants of the production department and so on. It needs to be completed in a better way. Now let's understand what the various reporting benefits as to the variance report preparation. The first benefit is measuring the strategic metrics to assess and monitor the performance. So the report that the management information system that has been preparing, it helps to assess and identify what are the various strategic metrics that have been associated with monitoring the performance. That is, whether the performance is positive or negative, or whether it is an average concern, and whether there is an improvement in the activities of the previous concern, helping to understand your position. So in this case, what is the position of the organization as to increase or decrease in the certain amount of activities, increase or decrease in the performance, and so on. So reporting the benefits of a certain concern is essentially required, and accordingly the benefit of the organization should be needed to be created. Setting the clear-cut performance benchmark. So the benchmark that adds to what is the target that has been set, how those particular targets can be set and they can be achieved. All those activities needs to be assessed and needs to be identified, and based on those consideration, a clear-cut performance benchmark needs to be seen. So once the particular benchmark it has been set, based on those conditions, several series of activities can be undertaken, and one can come to a conclusion about whether the target is been achieved or whether it is not been achieved. So if the target is not been achieved, what were the various issues or difficulties that was being faced, and if the target is been achieved, then what was good that was supporting for achieving of those particular targets. Learning and reproducing or not. So in the entire course of activity, whenever a report is being prepared or the series of activities are being completed, one has to also understand and see that what is the concept of learning and reproducing. That is, whatever activity that are being conducted, it may give you a certain amount of learning, or it may give you a certain amount of understanding as to involvement of certain task or in a certain business organization for a certain amount of modulation. So if any modulation or certain revision in activities is been required, then how those revisions in activities can be undertaken. Enhancing the communication. The variance report that have been generated with the help of management information system always enhances or builds in the communication between the various departments or between the various levels of management. And hence, effective communication can be undertaken between different peoples, and a proper coordination well series of activities can be implemented in the organization. The next perspective is the improving the collaboration. So various collaboration activities with respect to the departments, with respect to the stores, with respect to the inventory can be organized in very effective concern, and those particular activities can be collaborated in a better way. And lastly, boosting the engagements and motivations in the business firm. Now let's understand what are the various essential types of management report. The various types of management report that have been prepared is the external report, the internal report, the progress or the status reports, and lastly the operational reports and the analytical reports. So these are the various reports that have been prepared. External reports as to the external participants, internal reports as to the internal participants to the organization who are within the organization, the progress of the stated reports that is to be given to the chartered accountants, the finance management consultant, cost accountants, and so on. The operational report that have been given to the various operational heads or the operational departments or the manufacturing departments, and lastly analytical report that have been given to the various analysts or the business management. Now let's understand what is the application of generating the variance reports in the management organization or the management information system. The variance report that has been created, it helps to identify what is the amount of profit, what is the amount of sales or the revenue that has been generated, what is the amount of output, that is actual number of goods and services that have been produced or manufactured in the organization, what are the various profit margin, that is the difference between the profit percentage and the sales consideration and the total cost, what is the impact on the profitability or what is the impact on the profitability, sales, output, and so on, and what is the impact on cost that has been associated. Now let's understand or deal with what are the various 8 steps to creating an efficient variance report. Step number 1, that is removing the background colors of your variance report. So if you want to prepare an effective variance report, various background colors should be effectively removed, and accordingly the report should be always plain and very simple. Removing the various borders. So whatever borders that have been given either to the page or either to the slide or to a certain screen, all those particular borders should be avoided and it must be removed. Aligning the values properly. So whatever values that have been mentioned in a particular report, those particular values should be very specific, it should be clear, it should be definite, and it should be accessible and accessible. Preparing the proper formatting. So the formatting with respect to the font, with respect to the size, with respect to the color, and so on should be formatted in a very effective way. Inserting the absolute variance chart. So wherever there has been required, the various charts, diagrams, bar diagram, pie chart should be used, and accordingly the variance report should be in a very effective way which deals with the consideration about of visual interpretations. Inserting the relative variance chart. So any relative variance chart with respect to the increase or decrease concern, with respect to the bar diagram or the pie charts and so on, the different types of variance charts should be used so as to create your report in a very effective, concern, and pleasing way. The seventh step that has been associated with the creating of efficient variance report is writing the key message. So a proper key message with respect to the opening or a certain justification or a clarification, and a proper closure message should be provided, which gives you understanding about what the report is all about, what are the various components of those particular reports, and how the report can come to a certain conclusion in terms of identification of the performance of the business organization. So here in this case, the pen and the paper and the whiteboards have been replaced by the Excel and the spreadsheets. So in this case, the traditional paper preparation of reports on pen and paper should be avoided, and accordingly, the report should be prepared either on a spreadsheet, that is an Excel format, or it can be prepared in a Word document or an PowerPoint presentation. In order to see that the digital record of a particular business transaction has been created, the file should be saved at a certain location which may not be damaged or which may not be lost, and accordingly whenever there is a certain need for accessing of those particular data, it should be made readily available. And hence the information that one has to develop or the information one has to access at a certain future stage should be made readily available, and accordingly all the reports should be available in an e-format. So the documentation should be done in a very effective way and should be always saved on the cloud or in the storage or on the drive or on the email format for a certain business organization. So accordingly, whenever there is a certain need or whenever certain access for those particular documents is been required, those particular reports can be accessed very effectively, and accordingly the reports are readily available. Another old favorite for maintenance department is the whiteboard. So in a certain business organization, certain whiteboards are also being maintained, or a certain chalkboards are also being maintained on which the various reports are being prepared. So such type of practices should be avoided because it is a time consuming and the expensive person, and accordingly the various management information system as to usage of software should be implemented, which help to create a certain report in a better effective way and try to save your time, energy and resources. And hence, when one has to identify and assess all the work orders that have been undertaken, it helps to identify the examination of work that has been undertaken and what update of activities can be implemented in the organization. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this particular session. In this particular session, we have understood what is the importance or what do we mean by generating the variance reports for the management information, how the planning of activity is been required in generating the variance reports for a management information, and how do we implement the variance reports in the management information system, and how those activities are being communicated from the different levels of management. I hope you must have enjoyed the learning and in this particular session. Thank you for your patience listening. Thank you.